Hey everybody, in classic trying to keep up fashion, we had some technical difficulties today. For some reason, we all joined as guests. So we kicked Nilo out and now it seems to be working. So I think the real answer here is that we should... Oh, never mind. He's here. Let's stop talking about him. Hey, Nilo. What's up?
Hey.
I figured if I waited long enough and let you get in first, that I was probably the problem.
You were... Yes. You were the problem. No, I honestly have no idea. I think it's the... I don't want to say it because I feel like Riverside will punt us off. But anyway, let's get started. Veronique, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Let's do a quick intro of you and then tell us your joke.
Sure. So I recently joined Exponent in March. I'm now several weeks/months into the job. I'm really excited. I get to work really truly with a multidisciplinary team. And one of the awesome things I'm learning is that we do a lot of awesome projects, both from a lab perspective, but we also get to work on a lot of litigation matters. So I get to see truly the total product life cycle, and I get to work with awesome people. I'm really excited about that. I guess I have a really simple joke, and my joke is also selfishly because I like certain things. So I'll tell you the joke and then it'll be self-evident what I really like. So the joke is, what kind of cow wears a crown?
I don't know. Which kind?
Okay, so the answer is it's a Dairy Queen. And I only picked that joke because I really like Dairy Queen. So for folks who don't know,
I love Dairy Queen.
Yeah, it's an East Coast based kind of dessert place. So that's why I
Wait,
picked that
Dairy
one.
Queen's only on the East Coast?
I think so. Yeah, I've only
No,
seen it
I
ever on
think-
the East Coast.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah,
California?
That's a dying
You
breed.
can't take credit for
Are
all
they?
of it.
Are they?
Yeah, we're gonna take care.
Well,
We're
at
gonna take
least
credit
they
anyway.
used to
All right.
be.
Well, I've only visited like all the Dairy Queens on the East Coast then. All right, who wants to go next on jokes? Oh, that's right. They actually are located in a bunch of locations.
See, thank you, Monica.
I can.
Go ahead, Nyla.
Oops.
I'll go next because mine also revolves around cows, and royalty. What do you call a steak that's been knighted by the king?
State?
Steak.
Steak.
Steak. Yeah, cows.
I'm trying to think of like all the steaks.
I'm gonna do it before you guys guess. It's
I don't know.
sirloin.
Ooh, good one.
So it goes good with Dairy Queen.
Yes, it does. We have a theme. Allison.
Okay, I I did not have a cow one, but I'm gonna switch because I'm gonna go on theme today. What if you ever notice a bunch of cows sleeping in a field, does that mean it's past your bedtime?
I like that one.
That's
Good
very
wordplay.
silly.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I mean, my real joke was going to be, did you hear that scientists have grown human vocal cords in a petri dish? No? The results speak for themselves.
That one too.
I will say, when I had a preview of it, I actually was like, oh, is that a real scientific thing?
No,
been awesome.
I said it to my kids, and now they're going to tell all their friends. They're like, there's like vocal cords in a dish. I'm like, no, it was a joke. It's not that. Though there are some pretty cool things that they are growing in petri dishes. Anyway, Veronique, thank you for joining us. We are busy this week because there's a lot of stuff that happened at FDA. I think like while we were talking to Jim Kleinedler last week, the whole rapid thing happened.
Yep.
Which was like, oh, that was breaking news. And like the day before, we were like, oh, they canceled TSET and they're going to put that pause on that and everything. And then all of a sudden it was like, and now it's another thing. It's back on. So,
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it back on, or is it just on with more restrictions? Because is it like, okay, not all breakthroughs hashtag, but like they want to get involved earlier, which sounds like the actual TAP program. Is it only for TAP device? I was trying to figure out like what qualifies for rapid that is different than breakthrough to NTAP or TSET or whatever.
Nobody knows.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. There's a link for it. I feel like FDA got on stage with CMS, right? And it was like Dr. Oz and Dr. Tarver and a bunch of folks from FDA. And it's, they issued this proposed rule that says that any eligible device participating in this pathway, so if you have TAP or if you have like the breakthrough, that you will have a streamlined pathway for Medicare for national coverage, and it could come as soon as 2 months after market authorization. So I think there's been a lot of opinions about what this actually means. Like a lot of folks are like, yay, and a lot of people are like, yay, but, and like thinking about down the line how this is going to impact review burden, and there's a lot of things that this could mean. A really good opinion piece, but also she did a lot of research on it, is Joanna Nathan from...
It's actually what...
I was just going to say
I loved her like write-up of it, because it was
what
like...
I have up right now.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, do you?
Okay, that's what I pulled up, so thank you, Joanna.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good.
I think it's like she's spot on. Like there's certain things that it could be like, there's stuff that could be great about it, and then there's also like, what does this actually mean? Is it going to slow certain things down? Or yeah, I don't know. I think, as we said, nobody knows what the total impact that this is going to be. I think yay, optimism, and like thinking that this is going to be really exciting. I know that on the Slack channel that we're all on, there was like a really interesting conversation about whether or not there's going to be like 100 breakthrough applications that go in the next week or two. Yeah. What does this mean for review load? Like, how is that going to impact review time? I actually just had a lead reviewer tell me this week, he's like, I'm one of 4 lead reviewers right now in my team, like down from 15 or something. And I was like, I'm not going to tell you. But I was just like, oh, wow, that's terrifying.
Bummer. But yeah. I don't know. It's probably good for people. I mean, we keep talking about the FDA is hiring if you know where to look, because it's not USA Jobs. But with the CMS thing, though, we talked about it last week with Jim, but I feel like we've had more guests on the show than actual people that work at CMS. There's not a ton in this like group. I met, I've met like 1 or 2 of them that have left over the last couple of years, and I remember meeting Kai, and she was like, yeah, I was one of 4 reviewers that looked at like the clinical trial reimbursement thing for all clinical trials. I'm like, there's only 4 of you? These are complicated decisions. And she's like, yeah, that's why it takes a long time. It's like, okay. So I feel like, FDA's already down resources, and calling CMS to the table early is just going to be, I love the idea. I want to see what the plan is.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I mean, I also share the same kind of like skeptical optimism in this whole prospect, right? Like the idea of it is really great in the sense that you're now bringing FDA and CMS to the table, and there's been kind of different formations of this initiative in previous iterations, but the idea that now there's a little bit more meat behind it, I think, and a little bit more of a structure is really great. But for the aforementioned reasons, the staffing issues on both the CMS side and the FDA side are lackluster. And so really getting any progress out of this, I think it's a cautious kind of wait to be seen.
#truth. Yeah. I feel like, so Michael Nilo has offered to come and speak to San Diego Regulatory Affairs Network.
Yeah.
Nice.
About Rapid and about TAP and Breakthrough and STEP and like, what does it actually mean? And so I will send a link out to that once we have the registration, but you should come listen to Nilo. It's going to be virtual. Sorry, we're not going to fly to San Diego.
How dare you? It is like miserably cold today in Pittsburgh, and I'm like, I would much rather be in San Diego.
No, it's lovely here today. I went rowing this morning, and it was the most beautiful sunrise.
Oh, jealous.
You pay the sunshine tax, though. Let's talk about, so Véronique, you were talking about the number of US versus OUS 510Ks. And personally, can I just take a shout out? Like, you have written some of the most thought-provoking, helpful insightful things, like articles and things in the past, and like I hope you just keep doing that, like at Exponent and in life. Like I really appreciate what you post on LinkedIn. So
Thank you. That's really kind. Hence my little subtitle today is Mind Wanderer. My brain tends to wander at random times about different things, and so that was kind of part of the exercise for this week. I thought I've seen, or maybe I've heard, that there's been a lot of competition with foreign regulatory bodies. So I was just kind of curious, like how many of our 510K applicants or sponsors really are coming from the US versus OUS. And just in the last week, so I only had time to do a couple of data points, but just looking at last week's 510Ks that got cleared, shockingly the number was pretty evenly split. It was 54% US, 46% OUS. So you can extrapolate a lot of information from that. One, you can probably imagine a lot of the OUS sponsors are coming from places like China, Korea. There's a lot of German and French sponsors kind of going through the FDA process. But then I was also thinking, why are so many more seemingly foreign sponsors coming to FDA with the 510K versus maybe the US? And I think that's an open topic that we can discuss here. But I think part of it too is just knowing that some of the Chinese regulators, for example, have been really trying to amp up their engagement and kind of be promoters of, forthcoming medical devices. I think that's a way for them to say, we've got credible data, whether we believe it or not, in China. Now we're going to use that to present it to the U.S. But it's just interesting to see, like, I know at one point Sharon had kind of said, like U.S. first, right? And so now you're kind of seeing that a little bit in terms of the numbers shifting, where there is actually more OUS, well, not more OUS, but, seemingly a decent comparable number of OUS sponsors to US sponsors.
I think even, you mentioned the Chinese regulations updating, but I think some of those projects that, because of MDR too, I mean, the MDR bar is significantly higher than it was, under MDD, and so those companies that are innovating coming to the U.S., but also, I think the healthcare economics for the U.S. too, use the reimbursements and the per product as things get more technical and higher input into it. I think, how much cost goes into just any regulatory process. I think investors want to see the payoff quicker, and the payoff will be the U.S. So I think that's probably might be guiding it too.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
I am curious, Allison, I think, Mike, did you have something to say?
No, you go first.
I was just going to say, like, I'm actually also interested in the next point, but if you have something to say on the OUS part.
I wasn't. I was going to go back one before we got to, because we did say no products, but there have been all those FR notices.
Good point.
For all these old de novos that came out like 3 years ago. But it also connects to like my favorite article you've ever written, which was, hey, FDA, start posting the de novo summaries.
Yeah.
And like it came out, and like a week later, like 50 of them got released, and it was
like,
amazing. Yeah, there is still one that I've been waiting on for like 17 months, and it's driving me nuts. But it's a neuro device. But hopefully, we might need you to write another article to say, hey, we appreciate all the FR notices from 2022, but like, can we get the summaries up for the 2025 products, please? Or end of 2024?
So I will say, on that front, that's probably one of the most like popular of my blog posts that I've done, in the sense that it was just kind of like, hey, what the heck is going on? Like, why are we not seeing these timely, documents? And again, just as you all know, in terms of like the background information on our Slack channel, AdvaMed was meeting, they had my information, they presented it to FDA. Like, it was pretty damning, I think, in the sense of like, look how many of them have not been posted. And also, by the way, it's not even by like a couple of months, it was by a couple of years. And so when you think about, again, the totality of the messaging from the agency standpoint and wanting to promote novel technologies, it's hard to do that when you don't have the underlying documents so a company could do substantial equivalence. If I could also just be on the soapbox for like another second.
Please.
It also just reminds me of another post I had done where FDA had also done something similar to what we saw this week, where they published all these FR notices. And it was something that they had done, I think, back in like July of last year, but some of the FR notices that they published were for things as far back as 2013. So that was an example where like a product got authorized 12 years before the notice actually officially went out. So hopefully we'll see a shorter average time for these pieces of information to come out from the agency.
One thing I'll say, and because they did have a few decision summaries that one of them I was waiting for, and I was like, oh, yay, look, it came out, and it came out really quickly after the granting. So I think it depends on the motivation behind it. One way, Nilo, that we've been able to get them to tell us what the information that is going to be needed if we're going to predicate off a de novo is we just do a pre-sub, which is like, put it in a pre-sub, but at least we'll be able to get more detail on like how we can meet the special controls. But it's really hard without that decision summary, right? Like, at least we have the special controls from the letter or the classification, whatever document, but that decision summary is so valuable. Like it's like the 510K summary on steroids. So I was going to say, like, the press releases and things that are coming out now, especially in like CDRH New and the FDA press release and their Instagram account, whatever you think about this administration, the one thing I feel like, oh, finally, is they are taking on more of a promotion standpoint, right? Like, FDA has always been about protecting and promoting, but there's been such a hesitancy about like, ooh, we can't like talk about all the good things we're doing. This administration promotes maybe to a fault, right? Like, they've taken the pendulum the other direction because they're like, look at all these things that we did. And we're like, yeah, that was like, as you just said, Veronique, like that was like a couple of years ago, or like, this has been something we've been waiting for, but at least they're like putting some good news around it of like, yeah, look at what we're doing. This is so good. And this is why you should care. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we did a little more of that, of like, maybe all the devices that, like the ones that you're like, hey, we worked really hard at this. Like, every de novo should be like talked about, every PMA. Like, this is totally something, agree. Even if it's like, yay, let's talk about all the good stuff so people actually know that med devices exist. I feel like so many companies don't even know that, like, wow, there's a device for that,
Med tech hype woman right here.
I mean, this is like, seriously, I started Blue Stocking Health because I was so frustrated that like I feel like people don't shine a spotlight on FDA enough, of like a good spotlight and saying like, look at all the good things that they're doing. And like the downside is, and I put it in the thread because it's a little sarcasm if you couldn't read into it, but like there was a whole post and McCary talks about like men have been overlooked for so long and like we're going to sorry, but it was like, we're going to put a lot of effort into testosterone therapy for men, and we're taking steps forward for this underserved population. And I was like, I was like, okay, I'm so happy that you're promoting that. But like, anyway, off my soapbox now too. Thank you.
Great ideas, bad execution is probably a theme, but I agree. It's nice to actually have some communication from the FDA rather than a black box, and promotional, like, good news is good. They should just farm it out to Allison and let Blue, just put the CDRH New and Fun should be a Blue Stocking podcast. Blue Stock Talk, yeah. But
Blue Stock Talk.
So one of the things I'm actually working on with my brilliant colleagues, who actually a couple of them are from FDA, we are looking at breakthrough designations and PMAs and 510Ks to understand, and de novos, to understand kind of how much time has elapsed between like a breakthrough designation and when you get authorization or clearance or approval. But then in addition to trying to do that exercise, we were really struggling to figure out when these companies actually had their breakthrough designations. And so to your point, it would be great if companies touted, or ideally FDA says, hey, this is when a company got granted breakthrough designation and this is what they did, just to kind of like, again, further promote the program, but also say like, there's really cool technologies out there, and we want the public to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could totally see why companies wouldn't necessarily want FDA to tell the public when they got their breakthrough. But I think it should come, like, I do think it would be awesome if it was a tag on the approval or clearance that
Like
was
when
like,
they
this,
got it.
Yeah.
this was a breakthrough device. Checkbox. When did they get it? Okay, cool. They did it 6 years ago or 3 days before they submitted. Because that happens too, right? The folks
Yeah.
that, when it was connected to NTAP, right? They really only cared about the reimbursement side of the breakthrough. So it would be great to find
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I've had companies that postponed their pre-market submission because they're like, well, let's first get breakthrough and then we're going to like the next day file the pre-market submission. It's like, oh, that kind of is a waste of everyone's resources. But not for theirs, right? If it's going to get them some extra reimbursement, like that's helpful. I think I've had a lot of companies, Veronique, where they never disclose that they got breakthrough or step. Like they're like, that is going to impact things that we're going to use that in the future, but like we're going to keep it quiet for now until we're ready to tell the world.
In terms of like our research, one of the things we were finding is it's really easy to tag. Right now, there's like just a structured kind of form for the PMA summary of safety effectiveness. So you'll see when they get their breakthrough designation, it's part of that document. But for the de novos and 510Ks, it's a lot harder. And so we're manually looking into that. And to both of your points, like a lot of the companies don't announce it right away, but they do say when they do get their clearances or they get their authorizations, hey, we also got breakthrough designation. So that you can kind of pinpoint and start to calculate backwards how much time it took. And so, yeah, maybe forward looking, they won't be forthcoming about promoting breakthrough designation, but at some point they should say it because it would be nice to understand their true regulatory kind of like experience, right?
Yeah.
And I certainly appreciate there's business strategies and pros and cons for doing it versus not, but it's also just, again, a nice way for even FDA to say, like, we worked with a lot of companies and,
the good we're doing,
successful.
right? Like, yeah.
Ben mentioned in the chat, and when we worked at FDA, it was standard practice. Every PMA got like an FDA press release.
Yeah.
And I know that was an industry thing to tell them not to do that anymore, or at least slow it down. And I have had a client where early, when that was still going on, they didn't want it because they weren't market ready to launch. All their resources had gone into getting through the PMA, and they didn't want the big announcement, but still they were 6 months from really being launch ready. And so that was why they were like, please don't. And so I think the process of people saying, hey, we want permission before you do that, just told the FDA, we're just not going to do it anymore, which sucks.
Or, couldn't there be something like a timeline of like, hey, we'd love for you to release the press release now. Like now we're ready.
Yeah.
Because, you don't want a lot of people that are like, where's this device? It's not available to me yet. It's going to be like a year until I can get it. But FDA has been promoting it, right?
Right.
But I think there's like, it's not hard to say like, hey, we're ready now. Can you put that article out, right? It doesn't have to be a press release. It could be like, this device is now for sale and here's a link. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like it's not that hard to do. But
it seems like it's
what do I know?
To do. Yeah, exactly.
There was a boring guidance document that came out. Sorry,
What about
I shouldn't say that.
what's the FAFO to clinical trials?
I actually I thought that's interesting.
Yeah, I liked that one.
Sorry, I'm jumping around. The FAFO. So it's more for drugs right now. However, I always look at kind of like what they're doing with like gene therapy guidance documents. And there was a gene therapy guidance document that came out last week. And also this was a big announcement that FDA announces major steps to implement real-time clinical trials. And so they're calling them RTCTs, and they're going to have a pilot that they're proposing a pilot program for the RTCT that's going to launch this summer. They're saying that oftentimes these early phase clinical trials are a bottleneck in drug development. There's a lot of uncertainty. And so FDA is like, well, with AI and data science, these sponsors and these trial sites can have, they can do a real-time trial in a way that enhances safety monitoring and radically increases efficiency. So, yeah.
So like I read the headline, I haven't had a chance to look into it. I'm like, it's like
The
when
Lincoln.
people talk about things in 3D. I'm like, I exist in the real world. Everything is real time. What is what is the real time aspect? Is that they're analyzing data like every day and like adding
Yeah,
to
so
the story?
it's like real-time safety signals, right? It sounds
Got it.
like they had a successful initiation with AstraZeneca and Amgen, which is they're doing some phase 2 studies, and so they're trying to get, like having these continuous trials, but getting this feedback in real time and making maybe better or like more efficient, radically efficient time to approval. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that makes actually like that
It
makes sense.
does. It
If they're
does.
able to collect the information real time and we have the data capabilities and it's being monitored real time and we have that kind of, it doesn't require someone going to the site and looking at like a paper record for every single thing, then
Right.
like um I
No, it's
I think
it's
that
it's good.
that's
I feel
good.
It
like
was
it sounded like
It sounds
let's just like put stuff on the market and find out, right? Like real-time clinical trials. I'm like, so when I read something like that, I'm like, oh, that sounds really scary. And then I'm like, okay, no. And if you follow the Instagram account for FDA, McCary does like a whiteboard walkthrough of like what it is. The only thing I'm annoyed in that video is that he didn't use one of those like influencer little finger pointer tools because he's like standing in, I was like, missed opportunity, guys. Like, where's the little pointer, McCary? Anyway, that was that thing that I posted in there.
Yeah, I'm really, yeah, I definitely had the same initial impression, like, wow, this sounds really scary. Like, what does that mean? But then you kind of read into it a little bit more, both on the Federal Register notice, and you kind of watch that video with McCary, and you're like, oh, that's actually really promising. Again, I'm always proceeding with like a lot of cautious skepticism. So I'm like, how is this actually going to be implemented, right? Like, is it going to be written in the protocol that if you have information or signals, can you now change the dosage? Or like, what happens if you find out there's a safety alert? How does that affect your statistical analysis? Like it's just all these little things to think about.
Yeah. I like what Ben said. He said, I can get on my soapbox about this. Ben, we might need to have you on.
Let's do it.
I'm going to reach. I think I know what Ben that is. So we could chat more about that. Veronique, you were talking about early alert, which I
Yeah.
can maybe for our two listeners, can you explain what an early alert is and like why they're kind of new, right?
I mean,
and they're
you can
extremely
start
valuable.
off with that, and I can just kind of pick up with an example. Do you want to do that?
No, go for it.
Okay, so essentially an early alert is as FDA kind of notifying via their public channels, whether a company has issued some type of communication or some type of kind of regulatory action, if you will, against the products that have been distributed. I think that's like a very simple, high-level explanation of it. But the example I wanted to point out this week was actually from Travidia Health. They manufacture a product called True Metrics, and it's used for the quantitative measurement of essentially blood glucose. And what's interesting about this one, or at least what caught my eye about it, is that it does seem like beyond the early alert that FDA had published on their website back in February as a result of the company's notification to their customers, now the next step seems to be FDA's now saying we're going to classify their action as a class 1 recall. So they're essentially escalating what's going on with the early alert. Maybe to back up just for a second, so the reason why Travidia Health even issued this notification is for their blood glucose monitor, they can produce something called an I'm going to get this right.
E5.
Yeah, an E5 error code. So essentially, when you get an E5 error code, that could be problematic because patients might end up overtreating or undertreating, and obviously that could have serious adverse health consequences. So the company has now basically said, we are taking actions to fix the labeling, to say you need to seek medical attention if you get the E5 error code and you're experiencing symptoms of high glucose. But then this past week, like I said, FDA issued a safety communication saying that now they think this action essentially is considered a class 1 recall, which for those who don't know, but I think our audience is very, very astute, they already know that this is the most serious type of recall. And so FDA is going further and saying, in addition to this classification, we're suggesting that users transition to an alternative method for testing their blood glucose as soon as possible. One of the other reasons why I highlighted this one in particular is within all the public communications, they don't talk about how many units are affected. They just have said, there's, I think, like 114, 117 folks that have been affected, and there's 1 death. But in reality, when you look at the MDR database, it actually shows a range of potentially anywhere from 1 to 12 million affected units that have been distributed across the United States, UK, Mexico, Australia, the Caribbean. So potentially this could be a much bigger issue than we're seeing, and it kind of just remains to be seen in terms of enforcement actions and whether anything else will come out of this.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Why is it such a huge range? Like 1 to 12 million?
Yeah,
Somewhere
so
in there.
I was wondering the same thing. I couldn't figure it out. I think there's differences in terms of how the product has been marketed, so it could be under, and I'm not throwing any of these entities under the bus, but just I think like they said they were under like a Kroger name or CVS name. So I think just counting for how many units have been distributed at these different entities. Yeah. On that exciting news.
Yeah, way to bring it down, Veronique. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But
I'm a data person, so I'm very interested how many.
And I'm fascinated. I think these early alerts, like it's, I don't know, it's nice. I don't want to say it's nice to read them, but it's nice to know that they're, at least companies seem to be more open to doing more of an early alert instead of a full recall, or like if there's something that you're noticing, it speaks to the times that we're in, especially when you have cybersecurity potential risks and whatnot. Yeah. There were a lot of them, actually. There were a lot of like early alerts, and just like there's been a few things that came out peppered in with those CFR notices. I just want to, I brought up that boring guidance document, and I shouldn't call it boring because I'm sure to somebody it was like blood, sweat, and tears for them to author it, but it was the compliance policy regarding pre-market and other requirements for certain NIOSH-approved air purifying respirators. So if that is your jam, if that is what you're working on, go check out the guidance, draft guidance.
I think, that's a huge coming out of COVID thing, right? Everyone in their sister was trying to come up with some sort of air purifying respirator and different things, and I think the folks that got kicked out of the EUA but wanted to continue the business needed some guidance. So I don't know that hits the super interesting, but I get it why it needed to be there.
Sure.
All right, I've already done my other 2 points.
Yeah.
my testosterone therapy for men. Oh, and the coding resources. So there were just new links. They updated the links for MDR. So there's MDR adverse event codes and like how to report them and like what they mean. And then also they updated 2 of the links. So I'll drop those into the chat as well. But I couldn't figure out what they changed necessarily, but
I think they just updated information through the end of last year from what I could tell. So fairly updated.
I did see the tips to help charge your medical device, which I was reading. I pulled it up last night as my computer was overheating on my lap, and I was watching the Penguins game. I'm like, maybe I am using the wrong charger, which was the case. Most of that guidance amounts to use the charger that was supplied with the device and not just a random charger.
Yeah.
Because a lot of medical devices don't use the same like converter as your iPhone.
Yeah. I think that's really relevant just because there's so many consumer products now that we're all hooked up to or wearing. So like in this context, it is really important to remember to use the chargers that were originally with your device.
Yeah. I think especially as like people are charging stuff on airplanes, like, and people bring their medical devices onto a plane now, especially if it's a portable or if it's a, something on your phone. And so if you're charging it with the back of the seat, like what is, yeah, and all of a sudden it starts getting very hot. Like I've noticed when I fly, they're like, if you lose your phone, don't get it yourself. Like have us come help you because of like batteries getting squished and blowing up. But also just like if your phone starts to overheat. Yeah. Was that? They say that.
Is that why? Is that why they don't want you looking for it yourself? I thought it was just they didn't want people crawling around in the airplane.
No. It's because if it gets jammed and it like squishes your phone, like they don't want you to be the one that tries to fish it out. Though I will say I felt really bad. Like I'm such a rule follower, and my phone dropped like between the window, like the seat, in that nasty place where all the goldfish and like people's boogers are, and I was like, and I pinged my button. I was like, my phone fell in the crack, and the guy was like, he was so, like the flight attendant, he got so upset with me, and I was like, I'm sorry, I was just following the rules, and also I was like, I don't want to go down there. That's gross. So I got off topic, but use the right charger with your medical device.
Allison's PSA.
My PSA. That is important. I also think like this must have been for I can't remember. I think it was Aubrey Schick, or we had somebody on here who was like, make sure that if something is happening or like you want to get your opinion to FDA, like let it be known. Like send them an email or like tell them what you're requesting, like how your paper, Veronique, kind of like maybe unstuck some things at the agency, because a lot of FDA decisions right now have to come from external sources that are like pressuring the agency. So the agency can say, this came from outside the building, like we were told to do this, and that's why we're listening to the public. And so I feel confident that this probably came in because people were like, this is dangerous, people are using the wrong thing. You should put out some sort of safety, thing about it. Safety tip. So, who wants to talk about the new cybersecurity papers? You read them cover to cover, I'm sure, Nilo.
Did. They were super interesting. No, absolutely not. I looked for Eric Henry's summaries of them, and also like other people who know what they're looking at. And they were great. I do think the managing challenges in the SBOM data normalization has been like a hurdle for our clients, and just even with the FDA, I think they have their own internal scanning. Kind of, is the SBOM correct in formatting that isn't actually aligned with their external messaging? So I think this will hopefully help make that a smoother process. It's been a big, hey, reformat it, do something. Just we've had to resubmit a few times, and it's not consistent. So I'm hoping that addresses some of that. And then the cyber risk, I mean, the bar keeps going up because it's easier to hack and more dangerous to do it now with AI and everything like that. And if you're not, the message has been the same. If you're not considering cyber risk in development, then you're not going to get through the FDA. And I forget who put it out there officially, but if it's not a block of wood, it's a cyber device.
Yeah, so, I loved that flowchart.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so it's, I think that's something we're stressing, and it's tough for these companies because they're small, and mitigating cyber risk is an expensive endeavor, and it's not a one-time fix either. It's like something you have to budget for forever. It's just I think it's going to be something that investors are going to have to get used to and all that kind of stuff, because it's going to be everyone wants to see AI and software and medical devices, but the second you put it in, you're exponentially increasing your long-term costs, not even just the upfront one. So.
Yeah, that's a really great point. It's not just kind of the initial kind of production of your technology, but then it's the upkeep and the ongoing maintenance and making sure that you're safeguarded against bad actors. That's a really good point.
And it's nice to see that it seems to be an effort that's global, right? Whenever there's a lot of organizations that are working on this, and FDA is one of the stakeholders in it, it seems like at least there's not a different guidance for every single country, and you're trying to meet, or a different standard that you're trying to meet wherever you go. It's like there seems to be more crosstalk with the various regulatory bodies about this, or at least the different countries.
It is interesting because I think different countries take different approaches to it too. Like some countries are really, really focused on your data privacy, and the or the US is just like, we don't care about privacy apparently. But on the flip side, like the bad actors and ransomware and all those kind of things, like FDA does a really good job of like enforcing protections there, whereas like a lot of other countries, regulatory agencies kind of bypass that type of threat. So it is interesting where people put their focus. Um, Loosely related, because I think I saw that like this week that there was an app being used to transcribe notes in a therapy session, and it was like also to help like diagnose some mental health. So it was like kind of like but it was being used willingly, and I think it got pulled in court. Like they had to pull the transcript records for someone in court. I didn't get the full story, but I was like, well, this is going to be the more mental health, because I think we've all worked on projects where it's some sort of app and AI type thing toward diagnosing mental health, and the line of what qualifies as, your therapist and medical like confidentiality versus you're speaking into a publicly used application is interesting, and I'm going to look more into it, but it did seem like you shouldn't assume that what you are talking into is confidential, which is kind of a bummer for the technology that's trying to promote and do good things to get people the help they need.
I said that's so interesting. I actually yesterday recorded a podcast. It'll be released if it's my Blue Stock Talk podcast about data privacy and like how it's one of our most valuable commodities, and like I know that's it's a different thing if it's like a therapy session and that being used in a court of law, but also just how much information we give to these apps or mobile medical apps, or like you have this massive document that says like 50 pages in what they're going to do with your data. Are they going to sell it? Are they using it to improve the algorithm? Like, what are they doing with it? And so how do people that are engaged with these medical devices that have some sort of software based user interface, like what are things that we're actually doing to protect ourselves and keep our data safe? Anyway, she had some ideas, so thank you. Oh wait,
Yeah,
you found it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
found it.
I found one of the articles I had kind of initially looked at, and I was like, oh, it's on my list of to read later tab, which is occupying way too much space on my computer all the time, like because it's just it's like continuously being added to and nothing's being knocked off. But
do you ever feel like sometimes when your computer restarts, it's just being like, I'm just gonna shake this Etch-a-Sketch for you, like because my computer stopped doing the like, do you want to restore your tabs? Because I think it was just like, honey, don't just let's just put those behind us. Yeah, those tabs are gone.
Yeah, you're never going to get to it.
You're never gonna keep up. So last thing I had was we missed a couple reclassification orders that came out a couple weeks ago. We did talk about the melanoma detection devices getting reclassified from class 3 to class 2, but they also had electrical impedance spectrometers, bone growth non-invasive stimulators, and then the ultrasound and muscle stimulators for use other than applying therapeutic DP. So those were also reclassified from class 3 to class 2. So I know the stimulator bone growth one. That I think that was the osteo boost. Like there was a de novo for that. So then they reclassified the other ones. Anyway, always interesting. Anything we missed? Anything you're working on, Veronique, that you're gonna drop some truth bombs?
Hopefully an article or two. We've got always a lot percolating. I'm also interested in kind of post-market actions with respect to what's been going on with QMSR after February 2nd. So waiting to see if there's enough. I need to have more data, to be honest, just to kind of understand the landscape of how much FDA is really citing certain aspects of the QMSR. I suspect there'll probably be a greater uptick on maybe management review, supplier audits, internal audits, that kind of stuff. But right now the N is fairly low, so I can't make any real conclusion yet.
Yeah.
But let me know if anyone, and this is beyond the group here, but if there's any other ideas that you guys have for thoughtful pieces to write about, look into.
I do. When we hang up, Nilo, don't just leave right away. You have to I'm gonna stop recording it because it takes a few seconds to upload the recording.
Okay.
You just and then I usually talk to the guest for a few more minutes.
I thought I had to leave. I didn't know.
Nilo's
I thought you were kicking me
out.
out.
Kicking you out.
Yeah, I thought.
No, I just push
sometimes
stop.
I have a 1 o'clock.
We say goodbye and then we stay on for a couple more minutes. Veronique, how do people get a hold of you? What are ways that people can connect with you or find or get some testing done by Exponent?
Well, you can reach out to me, vli@exponent.com. You can look me up on Exponent's website, hit me up on LinkedIn, email if you know my other email addresses, phone numbers, whatever you want to do.
We will stalk you.
Put it out on the
And your VLI, it's so cool that your email is also a Roman numeral.
And it's enough to be someone's full name initials, but nope, first name, first initial, and last name.
It's so cool. Well, just so you know, I probably look like a stalker because I go to your page a lot, and you mentioned Eric Henry Nilo the other day, and I was earlier, and I'm like, there are some people that think I'm just always looking at their profile because I'm always like, what did they post? And I need to find that thing that they wrote, and so I'm gonna go and find them. So thanks again for all the data crunching you do and all it ends up being advocacy, right? Because as Nilo said, you write something and then people start to listen to it, or FDA catches wind of it. So
yeah, and I definitely will say I appreciate kind of the amplification of the messages, because sometimes you don't know to check one source versus another, so having it shared on multiple platforms is really helpful, and sometimes you agree and sometimes you don't, but I think that's part of the whole exercise, is really just having a thoughtful discussion about it. No name calling or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is the point of trying to keep up. We are on Spotify and Apple and all the places now. I have written a jingle for trying to keep up. It's terrible.
It's good.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I'm so excited for it to be part of this. It's so silly and it's amazing. Allison's awesome.
I actually this morning worked on the harmony for it, so it's going to be 2-part harmony, and I play a ukulele. And because I listened to one of our podcasts on Spotify or on Apple or whatever, and I was like, oh, it just is it starts with us talking. I'm like, we need something to be ease people into this instead of it's just being us instantly speaking. So
it's probably better than us swearing at Riverside trying to figure out how to get it all to work.
That's usually how the podcast starts. It's us dropping some F-bombs. Thank you, Caitlin. I do row as well. We appreciate you, Veronique, and we'll catch everyone next week on trying to keep up.
Sounds good. Thanks both.
Good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.